Strategic Leadership and Innovation. For those of you all who have attended the first session, I thank you and coming back for the second section. Thank you for taking the time. We are trying to do something special with this program, and in support of that, we have Dr. Justin Zephyrine joining us this afternoon to take us through how do we make this a very engaging experience for the students who will be attending this program. So that being said, we know Justin comes from a whole host of experience, etc. He's well versed to take us through this.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. I think you were breaking up a little bit there, Lisa. Yeah? All right. Good afternoon, everyone, once again. First of all, just want to acknowledge the delay. Apparently, it was due to technical difficulties beyond our control on our end. We sent the email with the room link earlier this morning, but for some reason it didn't go all the way through. So we resent it, and I think that's how you were able to get it. Because when I joined the room, I didn't see anybody, and even when we were supposed to start, so that was the first red flag. All right. But we're here now, and what I'll do is adjust the session to suit, all right, to make up for the time that passed. All right, so in this session, we're gonna look at teaching in the online environment. So what do we mean by that? It's really, we're gonna look at the different, first of all, take a look at the context that our university context, our program context, and that sort of thing. Then we're going to look at some instructional strategies that you can use, and then some tools along the way, some educational technology tools that would help you. Very easy, by the way. Don't you know? It's not not too onerous, not too complicated. Very simple technology tools that you can easily incorporate in your instruction. All right. One of the things that I will be doing is modeling, because it's a lot to cover in the time that we have. So what I'll be doing is modeling and introducing you to some of the tools along the way. So showing how it can, which is more effective, because I'm not just telling you that, okay, this tool can do this, but I will also be showing how it can be used. Yeah. So some of the tools we're going to look at will be Padlet, Poll Everywhere, and that sort of thing. So good, Maria just joined us. Hi, Maria. So we want to start with a quick icebreaker. All right, I know it's after lunch.
Thank you, sorry.
No problem at all. I'm happy that you're here. All right. So I just put some links there. All right. Now this tool is called Poll Everywhere. So what it is really just to kind of give us an idea. Of course, yes, it's to break the ice, but also to give us an idea of where we're at. Yeah. And it's something that you can use in your class context as well. You can integrate it into your PowerPoint, or you can share the screen like I'm about to do. All right. So you should see the screen. The first question, now all you have to do is click on each link, and it will take you to the question where you can put in your responses. Yeah. So please let me know if you get any problems accessing. Yes?
Just that I'm not seeing the links.
Oh, I posted it in the chat. Let me check again.
It's in the chat.
Yeah, it's in the chat.
Oh, nothing is coming up in my chat.
All right, well, let me send it to you specifically, Lisa. Is anyone else not seeing the... All right, so I'm seeing 100% so far. All right, Lisa, I sent it to you personally now.
I just got it, thanks.
Okay, great. All right, so far 100%, as expected. Yes, your technology use has changed between pre-COVID and now, and I would imagine so. All right, now it's so you know the pandemic has, this is the second year technically speaking of the pandemic, and so I'm glad to see that this is indicative of your change or your ability to adapt, yeah, or to adjust your instruction, because that's really what this is all about. The pandemic, you know, it is what it is, and really, you know, our teaching and learning practices should not. It gives us even greater impetus to augment or tweak our instruction. Yeah. So let's go to the next question. What technology tools have you used in your teaching practice or educational context prior to COVID-19? Right, my e-learning, good, good. Because as you know, that's the official platform that the university is using. All right, so my e-learning, anything else? Great, my three responses for my e-learning, good. Keep the responses coming. Yes, YouTube is a tool. It's actually a very useful tool in more ways than one. One of the things you can do with YouTube that I really like is YouTube. One of the things that I like with YouTube is that you can use it to when you have large videos that you would like to share with your class. It's a very good way to just upload it into YouTube, and you adjust the settings to suit if you don't want it to be entirely public. And that way you can adjust it, for example, to unlisted, where only persons with the link can see the videos. Yeah. So that makes it easier. You don't have to store it on a flash drive on your machine, on your laptop or your computer to take up extra space, but it's stored in the cloud. YouTube is a cloud platform, so a cloud-based platform. So it's almost like a Google Drive. You store a video on Google Drive, you can also store it on YouTube, right? It's just a way of making use of the space that you have. The other thing I like with YouTube is that you can embed it into the My Learning course site. And hopefully I could show you that as a bonus closer to the end of this session, maybe, if it's not really part and parcel of this session, but if you'd like, I can show you how to embed it so the YouTube video plays within your course site. All right, good. So we have primarily My Learning and YouTube, and I'm assuming PowerPoint as well at some point in time. Yeah. So were you comfortable using those tools in your educational context? Everyone said yes, right? And I like the fact that I saw just My Learning on YouTube, because then it means that it really warrants this particular session, because now we're going to expand on that a little bit, right? So we're going to look at a couple extra tools that you could put in your toolbox, if you want to call it that you could use, you know, and kind of spice things up a bit. So yeah, and you should be comfortable with them as you continue to practice. Yeah. What are some hindrances or issues you face in using the technologies in your educational context? Right, internet outages, so connectivity issues, right? Interruptions during class. I'd like the person to elaborate on that. Is it distracting noises or just internet connectivity, or could you elaborate? Interruptions during class. What kind of interruptions are you referring? Be sure to use your mic if you're talking. The mic is at the bottom of the screen, and I'll go through the layout of the screen right after this. So you just click on your mic, or you could type it in the chat. All right. Students respond even less. Most don't turn on their cameras, and some do not use the mic. Calling them out does not help. Okay, good. So this session is one of the things we're gonna talk about or look into is engagement, student engagement. That should help in getting students to respond more or being a little more active. There's an approach that we call is active learning. So it really makes students become more involved, or to be actively involved or participate in the learning experience. It's like another word for it is called participatory learning, right? So students leave their mics on, right? And then you now have to kind of click, to mute the mics manually. All right, some students wanted to address that. I would say just put some housekeeping rules at the beginning of your session, just to, so they are made aware of it. And sometimes it wouldn't stop it from happening, but at least it will minimize it. Some students were having trouble registering, so did not have access to. Oh, right. That is an ongoing issue, I believe. Yeah, access to my learning. So fair enough, and I think the campus is working on it. All right, and hopefully it's resolved sooner than later. Yeah, because I think they removed certain holes, and we'll get to this after, so I'm not going there now. So so good. I'm glad that if anything, that exercise showed us really how to, some of the things that the similarities that we have. Because sometimes it's very easy to think that, you are the only one faced with certain problems, right? When really, it's not quite so. It's, all right? So generally, how do you feel about online learning? Is it that you think are you apprehensive about it? Are you uncomfortable with it? Are you, and you could just turn on your microphones and share. Are you excited about it? Do you find it to be overwhelming? Do you find it to be ineffective? What do you think of, how do you feel about remote or online teaching and learning? Don't rush now. Okay, good, Maria, go ahead.
Hi. For me, I used Blackboard for the entire academic year, both semester
Right.
1 and 2. It was amazing for me. It's a lot of great features. I'm seeing people saying that the mics, sometimes students would leave the mics on. There's actually a feature where you can actually turn their mic off. I did presentations. It's really interactive. It makes it a lot easier. Yes, we have a lot of the connectivity issues, but it varies with the weather and sometimes with the bandwidth. So that was a problem. But other than that, I loved it. Every single day, I loved it. My students, we had a great interaction because you can also use the participants, so you can see the students who are present, so you can actually call on them. I used the breakout room. We also did presentations. And it was just an easy process for me. So I loved it.
I'm very happy to hear that. Very good, very good. Anybody else? And hopefully, Maria, I might even call on you for today's session to show some things or to explain some things from your context or your perspective, yeah? If you don't mind.
Challenge accepted.
Great. All right. So for those of you who might be a little apprehensive or, I don't want to say fearful, but at least, you might be a little concerned or you're not too comfortable with it yet. Don't worry. We are here for you, right? So what we're going to do in this session, we're going to look at the remote teaching context. Then we're going to look at instructional strategies, and then we look at engagement and how we could facilitate that engagement in using certain technology tools. Now, one of them I just showed you was Poll Everywhere. You can just do a simple Google search www.polleverywhere.com, and you can create your account, and you can create a wide range of polls, word clouds, challenges, and so on in there. So it's a really, really nice tool that I encourage everyone to use. And you just saw, even just now, you saw it's like a live, it's like a poll. So you see real life polling results, yeah, whether it's in text or charts or, you know, responses, you get to see them all right? And we'll be doing things like this along the way. So I'm just putting that out there that, you know, Poll Everywhere is a tool that you would want to look into. All right, like I said, I'll just type the link in the chat. www.polleverywhere.com. All right. Oops, I think I spelled that wrong. www.polleverywhere.com. All right. So once you have that, you can click on it and just kind of save it there until after the workshop to explore it even more. All right. Okay. So we're going to talk about the remote context. And really, when we say the remote context or understanding your teaching context, sorry, we are really speaking to the context of remote teaching and learning at the university, right? We know that in our context, the remote teaching is supposed to be a temporary thing, generally speaking, and what, of course, in response to the ongoing pandemic and so on. But thereafter, programs that were deemed as face-to-face will resume their face-to-face instruction. Programs that were deemed blended and or online will go forth accordingly. Now, I think I understand that this program is either blended or online, right? So barring that, the remote context is kind of we transition to, I don't want to say normal, but get closer to normal as we know it. You're gonna go back into that blended / online mode. But for now, it's more so remote, all right, which is just online, basically speaking. So what we know about remote teaching and learning, well, it's facilitated through technology. So of course, certain platforms such as Blackboard Collaborate, video conferencing software, your learning management systems such as MyLearning, right? Those are key things that you need at the very basic level, yeah, in teaching in the online environment. You need your learning management system, which is your online class environment, and then you need your online or virtual classroom, which is where your virtual conferencing tool will come in, yeah? So sometimes people might use Zoom, but the official university platform is Blackboard Collaborate, right? Now, remote instruction can be, of course, either synchronous or asynchronous, meaning that you can have it in real time like we're doing now, or you can have your lectures pre-recorded. And I wouldn't recommend that you have too many lectures or long lectures pre-recorded, but you can definitely mix the two. Not all instruction has to be real time. Some of it could be pre-recorded. Some of it, like if it's just a quick, you might want to consider a summary or overview of your particular modules, the modules in your course. You could use a quick screencast for that. A good tool for screencasting is Screencast-O-Matic. If you would like, we could probably do a separate session on that. I have a whole workshop or webinar that we do on screencasting. So we could always look at that at some other point in time. So yeah, now avenues, like I said, you can use for your teaching online. Of course, you're going to look at your course content or readings and your course activities and assessments, all right, which all will encompass, MyLearning will encompass all of these. And of course, your conferencing software, BBC. Now, you would notice that MyLearning is at the bottom of it, right, of this graphic, because really everything that we have here should be found in my e-learning, right? Not in MS Teams and all these other platforms so much, but more specifically in my e-learning, right? Including the links or the session recordings and so on in Blackboard Collaborate. They all should be in my e-learning. And in teaching in the online environment, you know, one of the things that you want to do is ensure that you have alignment. In some cases, persons may have adjusted their courses or tweaked it just for the remote context, but if it's something that is going to be delivered online, or whatever adjustments you make, of course, and I know the program has been reviewed and so on, went through the process, and you just want to make sure that your instructions, and when I say instructions, this is when you are delivering the program or implementing the program now, you want to make sure that it's guided by or informed by or aligns with your learning objectives. All right. I had the opportunity to look at some of the course outlines and as part of the proposal and so on. And I must say that many of the learning objectives were pretty exemplary. Yeah. So keep that in mind. Just give me 1 sec, please. All right, that was just an urgent matter I had to attend to. So you want to make sure, and that was the deputy principal, sorry. So you want to make sure that you have alignment amongst the different components of your particular course. All right, and to that end, you stop and think about at this point some of the ways in which you think you can you know your topics and so on already, but now you want to think of ways in which you can engage your students, in which you can give them certain activities, even in your lectures, plenary sessions. Yeah. So to this end, all right, I'm gonna send you a link, and in this link, I want you to basically describe your students, because before we go anywhere, you would need to really give your student have an idea of your students and how you can possibly engage them. Now, you may not be spot on necessarily, but at least you have an idea of the students you might be looking at. I just posted the link in the chat. And this platform is called Padlet, and it's something that I can probably show you how to use right after. All right. So let me know if you can get access to it.
Yes, I was able to access it.
Okay, great. And what you will see in that Padlet, let me just share my screen. All right. All you have to do is double click anywhere on that Padlet, and you will be able to you'll be able to post your comment. What I want you to do is give a little description of the kind of student you have in your particular course. Yeah? Or the kind of students that you tend to encounter in your teaching context. So go ahead and type anything related to that. Yeah? And I will share my screen in just a bit. All right. Let me know if you're getting through. I think most of you should be getting through. All right. All right, Abdullah just got some technical difficulties. Abdullah, you okay?
Yeah, sorry about that. I had to take a call from my executive,
Oh, no
and
problem. No problem.
really, really apologize. I had to take that
That's no
call.
problem. So did you get the I had a similar situation with the deputy principal, so that's not a problem at all.
Okay.
So did you get the link to the Padlet activity?
No, no, sorry, no.
No. Okay, so I'll resend the link.
You mean to email? I'm just trying to check my email.
No, it's to this
To the chat?
an activity that they're doing now.
Okay.
Justin, Leslie, I'm here. I wonder if I could just ask a quick question, please.
Sure, you go right ahead.
I think I missed the context of using Padlet. Are you saying that this is a tool we could use with our students in the same way
Yes.
that we did the poll EV? So we can ask them questions and they respond by entering comments on that screen?
Yes, just what we're doing here is what you will ask your students to do. So you can ask them to basically, you give the instruction as you see here. Oh, my screen isn't shared, sorry. All right, so I just resend the link. And right, good. And you can ask them to basically give their opinions on a particular topic. So it doesn't have to be necessarily a pool that you use, but it's just a way in which you can engage your students. So someone said final year students, mixed levels of participation. Some are engaged, some are present, but very disengaged. Good. I like, that was some time ago. So yeah, so go ahead and click anywhere on the poll. And I wanted to leave the responses from a previous session I did, because the reason for that is just to kind of show you something. I'll explain it right after. So you just click anywhere. All right. And you should be able to add your comment. Are you able to do that?
Yes, I was able to add comments.
Yes,
Right.
I was adding comments to the comments that were on the screen already, but then when I scroll down, I see the plus sign that I can have my own little box. Yeah, all right. But Justin, how could we avoid, like, if we did not want the anonymous, is there a way that we could see the names of the?
Yeah.
Okay.
So so let's now, one of the things I wanted to do right after this was to get you to create your Padlet. So we'll go into that in just a bit. All right. So one of the things when you are creating your post, so let's say if I wanted to add something, all right. Of course, I'm here as Justin Zephyrine, but what I do is normally put my title as well. My title could be like the subject of what I'm going to post, or it can be my name, right? Now, because I'm logged in, obviously it's going to have my, I didn't have to type in my name per se, but normally when I'm using it in a class session, depending on what the question is and so on, I might either ask that you don't have to put your name or enable it or force persons to put their names. All right, so one of the things that you would see here is that some people say they had a great experience. Some person said, some person said students tend to be anxious with technology topics. They sometimes preface their contributions with "I am not techie" and so on. Now you notice as you're typing, we can see it in real time, right? So just to let you know that this is how flexible this is. Now in some cases, you might have students who might be considered to the age, the personalities, the prior knowledge, all these things you want to consider in your particular educational context. Do you find that in your educational context you have a limited set of resources? All these things you want to be mindful of, because these things inform what we call your educational or instructional context. Yeah. Now, one of the things I wanted to show you as well. Now, mind you, if you want to just add a comment, you can either double click anywhere on the page, or just click the plus sign at the lower right side. Yeah. And then you just type something. So let's say I'm typing let's say fluid. Right? No two students are ever the same. Right? And that's that. And it saves my comment. So and we see some other comments, and you could tweak it accordingly. You can either have comments on other person's posts, which you can enable or disable, or you can post your own comments. All right. Now let me show you here before we go any further. Now we're still talking about the instructional context, but let me show you how to create your Padlet. All right. So you can open up a new browser. Yeah. Open up a new browser, and you can just type Padlet, and you're gonna see this page here, and you could just click Padlet. Now Padlet, you're gonna see Padlet, you are beautiful, or you're amazing, and all these kind of things, because Padlet is a sort of it's used for in different contexts. So you might have Padlet for brainstorming. It's a great tool for brainstorming. Let's say you have group work and so on. You want to give your students group work, and you want them to brainstorm certain things. So if it's a research project, if it's an essay even, or a presentation, Padlet is a good, or even if it's a portfolio that they have to create. Padlet is a useful tool, a very effective tool for all of these things. All right, it facilitates obviously collaboration, as we see here, because all of us could type on this Padlet, right? So you go to Padlet, click on Padlet. Let me just pull up my other page. All right. And you will see, you click on Padlet, and it's gonna ask you to log in or to register or sign in. So click on that. Let me share another page with you so you'll see exactly what it's like. All right. And you can decide, it's your, if you have a Google account, that's even easier. If you want to sync it, when you click sign up, you can decide whether you want to sync your account with, let's say, a Gmail account or your Facebook account or whatever other account you have. All right. So you insert like an email address, then you insert a password and some other little small bits of information, and then it should take you to a page that looks like this. So everyone should be typing in their username or email addresses and password. And Can you let me know what are you seeing on your screen now?
I am seeing select membership, the basic or pro. And I'm
Right, good.
selecting basic.
Yeah, because you want the free account.
Because you want the free account.
But nothing is happening after that.
All right. When you click on it, what do you get?
The same welcome screen that you have there.
Great.
Then.
Great, excellent. Is everyone on a page like this?
Yes.
Great. So once you're there, you're going to click on Make a Padlet. Click on Make a Padlet. It's right at the top left side. All right. Make a Padlet. And it's going to take you to a page that looks like this. Now, what you're seeing here is really just a layout that you're probably going to, you might choose one or the other. It doesn't matter at this point because you could always go back and tweak it. Yeah. So let's say you want to select the first one. All right. And look at what we have here. So you should see it basically gives you a template or to work with, which you can change. It's going to ask you to change it in a bit. All right. You can, first of all, so you should see a page that looks something like this. Now, your wall might look a little different because Padlet is a sort of dynamic, like I say, it's a social media, there are social media elements to it. All right. So is everyone on a page like this?
Yes.
Great. So at this point, you could easily just type the title for your Padlet. So by default, they're going to give you something, your beautiful wall or your beautiful Padlet or whatnot. But you might want to give it something that is a little more relevant to your course. So you can give, let's say, a good way to use this would be, for example, introductions. So let me just type introductions here. And in the description field, I can simply put, please, please introduce yourself to the class. And what you want to achieve from this course. All right. Yeah.
So I got a bright pink flower behind mine. I can change that.
Yes, you could change that. Don't worry. You'll get to the look and feel of it in just a bit.
Okay, cool.
All right, great. So once you have your title and your description, you could decide if you want an icon for it. You don't have to put an icon just yet, all right? Because it'll just give you a random icon. So you can always go back and change that. This link you have here is the link that you would share. Let's say if you want to retrieve or share your Padlet. This is the link here. You don't have to copy it now, though. You don't have to copy it now. Once done, you can scroll down a little bit and you'll see wallpaper. And this is where you can change, let's say, for example, from the flower, whatever it is that you might have now, to something that is more suitable to your, not just your personality, but to your the course content. Because remember, it's a course you're teaching. So you could decide to put, generally I tend to lean more towards like certain basic patterns that are very neutral. So let's say if I were to select one of these, or I can go to like a gradient, all right? And the gradient will give me a little more, you know, something a little more neutral, as I said, all right? Or you might decide to go for something more like a picture, all right? So for example, a windmill. And there are quite a few of these. If it's something that has to deal with, let's say, leadership in developing countries versus more developed countries and so on, you might want to use the map, the world map. If it's a world situation you might be exploring in your class, you might want to use, you know, so you have different things. And then you can also use your unique picture, all right? You can upload a picture to make it as a background, but I would recommend that whatever background you use, make sure it's not a very busy background, yeah? Because it will make it difficult to read. So I tend to lean away from things like these because it could be, I mean, yes, it's very colorful and whatnot, but you know, I tend to go very neutral to avoid the, not just strain on the eyes and so on, but I don't want it to be distracting from the content because it's the content that will matter more. All right, so once you select your backdrop, then you just click on this button here. You'll see at the top of the page, you go back from pictures and you go back from wallpaper. So far, so good?
Yes, so far so good.
Right. Great. So now we're going into posting, what the posting settings would be like. Right. Now you could set the font sizes and so on. I generally tend to leave it as the default because it's fairly readable. This here attribution is something that Leslie just inquired about. So this is where you're going to set it, Leslie. If you want the author's name to be displayed above each post. In this context, I would say yes. I'm enabling it, so it's yellow now. All right. Then
Yes, thanks.
Great. And then the new post position. So you might probably want the newest post to always remain at the top, right, or last, depending on what your preference might be like. But I recommend that you put it first because you wouldn't have to scroll all the way down every time you want to see a new post. All right. And then right under that, you want to click allow viewers to comment on posts. So just as you were able to comment on other person's posts, you want to enable that. And then remember I said that Padlet has a social media element to it. This is where you can give it allow for reactions or a like. So it adds that kind of, one of the things that you want to make sure you have in a social, in teaching in the online environment, you want to make sure that you create what we call this community of learners. And a community of learners really is where you have that connectedness amongst the members of the class and the instructor or facilitator. You would probably hear me say later on in this session that any online course should have at least 3 elements, right? And if you don't hear me say it later on, I'm saying it now. So it should have what we call the teaching presence, the cognitive presence, and the social presence. The teaching presence or teacher presence is really the presence of the teacher in the online environment. You know, sometimes you could have an online course and the teacher is nowhere really to be there, present. But that cannot be the case in a course, especially if it's online, or even if it's blended, because the teacher would need to give feedback. The teacher would need to give certain prompts or instructions and really engage the student. Added to that, you have the teacher presence, then you have the social presence, the cognitive presence, and the cognitive presence speaks to like the content. So all your reading materials, the videos, the assessments, the activities, All of those things come under what we call the cognitive presence, and that's kind of self-explanatory, right? Then we have what we call the social presence. That's the third one. The social presence, you must have that sort of not just engagement, but interaction among students in your course. And so it's not just from student to student, but also from student to teacher. All right, and this is one way in which you can facilitate that. So you have what kinds of social presence settings would you like basically to use that too? So you might want to use a like feature, or you might prefer to use a star feature, or just a vote. Now you could grade, but I don't think grade. You don't want to make it seem that if I think the more generic approach would be either a like, depending on what your Padlet is all about, would be a like or a star. Yeah, so I will tend to go with the like, and then we go back. At the top by reactions, there we go back. So in other words, just like social media, other persons could like your post, right? And in so doing, you build what we call the community of learners and strengthen that social presence. So once we have that, we go a little further down, and this is where we get to filtering or really managing your awards. So is it that you want students to seek, you want to be able to approve students' responses before publishing it, before making it public? I tend not to put that because it takes away from that realness, or yeah, from the board. And the profanity filter, sorry. All right. You can, it's up to you. If you would know your students, of course. Remember, we were talking about the instructional context, which we'll get back to. But you may or may not enable this as well. All right. Once you've done that, you click next. Let me know if I'm going too quickly or if I need to repeat anything. You click next. And that's it. You're free to start posting. All right. Now, once you do that, you would see, you could click anywhere on the wall and you would see the wall you just created. So you would see the title, and then you would see the instruction right underneath. Yeah. What I want you to do now is share your particular Padlet. Now, to share your Padlet, you would see at the top right side, share, and you would see a menu appear right there. Right? Now, there are a couple things you can do. You scroll along a bit and you will see under the share menu, you could share it on obviously social media or via email. But in this case, I want you to just copy the link and just paste it into the chat. So other persons in this class can see what your Padlet looks like and even post in it for now. And you can always delete the posts accordingly. So go ahead and copy your link. You click copy, and I'll do the same. And you're going to post it in the chat in this particular, right? Shellyann did it already, good. And I'm posting mine here. Right, good, excellent. And strategic decision making, good. So this is Shellyan's Padlet. So all I have to do is click on Shellyan's Padlet, and you're going to see my name automatically, Shellyann. And you're gonna see my post. You could probably see it in real time as I'm typing. So let's say strategic decision making. So all right, good. Lisa just is typing, good. So Shellyann, you could see the real life responses, yeah? So good, nice. I like what we're seeing. So go ahead and type on each other's, at least something on each other's posts. So I see Lisa posted on Shelly-Ann's Padlet. Good. Nice, nice. And I'll show you something just after we get to that. So go ahead and click on each other's Padlets, and we'll move on in just a bit. All right?
Justin, quick question. Could we use this as a sort of informal course evaluation? When I mean evaluation, just to get feedback from students that come in kind of closer to the end of the course, would you use it in that manner?
Not so much, because in a case like that, you'd probably want to, well, let me say why first. You may not want to do it unless it's anonymous, because I don't think students would really want to, what they would call the makeout scene. So it would impact the kind of feedback you get in that regard. I think what you would probably do, if it's an informal sort of feedback you're looking for, you could create a poll, right? Or a simple Google form, or if it's sort of a reflection activity, a journal activity, closer to the end of the course in terms of what they liked or what stood out to them in what they liked most about the course, or what was the muddiest point. That's an activity that we do as well. And the muddiest point is like, what was one thing or two things that were confusing to you, and now you got clarification on it. You're much clearer on it, right? So yeah, so I wouldn't use it for an evaluation exercise, but most certainly for engagement, brainstorming, collaboration, report creation of portfolio even. Now guys, the thing is, you could also create, so hopefully that answers your question. Yeah, Leslie? Before I move on?
Yes, thanks, Justin.
Now you would notice as you're posting, you can also add different, it's not just text, you can add different forms of media to your post. So when you are typing, when you click and double click anywhere on the post, on the wall, sorry, you would see that you could put let's see here, right? You could easily post a document, a web link. You could also do a Google search of some sort, and then you could take a picture. Now that's just some. You could do a couple other things. You could record your screen. You could, you know, do a whole bunch of other things. Upload an image. Now, of course, this is an upgraded version, so you could, you know, put a GIF. You could search YouTube and that sort of thing. So let me just do a quick search in YouTube. All right. So let's say I'm going to do a quick search I'm doing a quick search in YouTube, and let me just take this off. All right. And it's going to find all the videos that I typed that are relevant to what I would like to, what I'm looking for. So what is blended learning? So I just have to click on it and it's there. Yeah. Right, Leslie, and you just posted yours. Now, one of the things with this, so you could go ahead and type a video, include a video or an image in your Padlet or response. All right. So let me know if you get through, if you're getting through. Okay, I think the one I was on just changed to change color.
Justin, sorry, what was the last instruction?
Just add a different form of media. Add a media besides just the text. You would see the. Let me go back to
Oh,
my.
yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I saw where you had put the YouTube video in. All right, thanks.
Right. And the good thing with this is that it highlights. You could play the video from here. So as the video is playing, it should play now.
Welcome, Module 1.1.
Right.
Blended learning. In this section, we will talk about.
And you could go full screen if you'd like.
And the different technologies.
All right. That's one way of doing it. You can also add images. You can add documents. You can add. Let me see if I can add a document to show you as well. It's the same procedure. Let me see. I can easily drag a document. Let's say I want to drag this here. Uh-oh. And there we have it. So look, I just dragged my document and I can continue to put yeah, different things. And if I were to click on this document, it opens, as you can see here, accordingly. All right. So like I said, it's a good space that you could use for, it's very flexible. And there's one more thing two more things I want to show you with Padlet. All right. Is everyone following and doing the same on their right? So I see Leslie, you placed a video in yours. Good. All right. Right, Lisa, you have some text. Feel free to add. I like the icon. Sorry, the emoji. All right, now feel free to add some different kinds of media. And the reason I'm saying this is because one of the things that Padlet will do is produce. Remember, I said it's good for like if students have to create a sort of report or portfolio at the end of this. That's the end of a course. Padlet can do a couple different things. So when you go to share, go back to share at the top of the screen. And you're going to see export. Now, before you go to export, let me just show you something. So you would see here, embed in your blog or on your website. This is where you can embed it into your My Learning site. So students don't necessarily have to come to this particular Padlet site to post in it. And they don't need an account either. You can embed it into your course site, and they just click on it in your course site and post their text or whatever the case is. All right. And if you want me to show you that, I can show you it at the end of this session. But then when you want to export it, you might want to export it. Let's say I did a big portfolio. Let's pretend this is a portfolio. You save as PDF. You can go letter for now. And then you click Publish PDF. And look at what happens here. It creates a nice little sort of portfolio of the posts that that were on your Padlet. And these are all embedded as active links. So if I were to click on this one, it would play the video. As you could see, the cursor changed to the hand, and it shows you where it's coming from, right? Michigan Virtual, YouTube, and here it's a Word document, etc., etc. So for example, if I click on it, it takes me to YouTube, to the source of the information, and I can play it from there. But I don't have to play it now. So you see where the usefulness of Padlet to do different things, generally speaking. Any questions on that? Yeah? Okay, great. So just wanted to make sure everyone is comfortable with Padlet, or any questions on how to use Padlet, what are some functionalities of Padlet, and so on?
Not yet, Justin. I think this was my first introduction to Padlet. I think I heard the name from my daughter. She's in Form 1, and I think she told me that they're doing a project using Padlet. So now I understand.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing me into the 21st century. Right? I am going to continue to play around with it. Thanks.
Yeah, and I like what you said there, play around with it, because that's how it stores from your working memory into your long-term memory, because then you become so versed in Padlet, and it's very easy to use, as you could see. And you become a master at it. So let's go back to the real premise for how we segued into Padlet. So remember, you were really to describe your learners, and many of you identified your learners as fairly young. They come with a certain bit of prior knowledge, and I like that we spoke about that, because there are some general things that you might observe with your learners. So for example, they have you might find for example, a prevalence of you might find more males and females. Yeah, you might have maybe more mature learners, adult learners, or those who just came straight from their undergrad degrees. Yeah, physiological traits, that is fairly important, especially if you're doing if you for persons with disabilities, or of course, if it's a face-to-face session, then you would obviously need to take that into consideration. And then also the affective and the social needs, the emotions, the avenues for interactions, which is what we just saw with Padlet, right? Likewise with Pool Everywhere, how you can use it. So hopefully you're getting the gist of it. I'm trying to model or to show you how you can use it, and then guide you in creating it. Yeah, so you can go and use it in a similar fashion. So when we talk about the learner analysis and the instructional context, we speak of these main things: the demographics, so if the age, the sex or gender, the cognitive and social development, and all these different things. All right. And the reason you consider these things is because it influences your instruction. So let's say if you have a lot of younger students, let me say that, you're probably going to need a lot of activities to really keep them engaged. Whereas persons who might be a little older may not necessarily require all that, the abundance of activities, but they might require more, they might appreciate more of a discussion, and different approaches. Yeah. So you need to understand or be mindful of the kinds of students that that come into your class or your course. And there are different ways to get that information. Of course, for us, it's fairly easy. You have Banner, you get that information from them, from that system. And then even an introductory activity. So you notice my Padlet gave them the opportunity to speak about themselves. So that helps to break the ice altogether. And because it's Padlet, it's a nice little sociable platform that, you could like something, or you could like somebody's response. You could, it gives that safe but social environment. So it's not like on Facebook for the whole world to see, but it's on a more controlled environment. Yeah? And of course, we see how the information provides the needs analysis. So you get the data from the banner and so on. And then, of course, you might conduct a needs analysis or a needs assessment. You know, and then, of course, you use that information. So you might find that you have more women in your classes and your courses. And that's perfectly fine. But you might need to adjust your instruction or the activities accordingly. I don't know. That might be something to consider. Right? So you see how they are all linked. Now, there are some things that, like I said, a learner analysis will include entry behaviors, as we see here, prior knowledge. Now, we all, even if they are young adults or more mature adults, they're all adults. So adult learners come with a certain level of prior knowledge and experiences that must be incorporated in the teaching and learning environment. Otherwise, they feel disengaged, they just focus about, okay, well, let me just pass this course, or what is the assignment, and not really appreciate or value the teaching and learning experience. Yeah. So that is something you want to make sure and build on their prior knowledge. So a simple thing like asking a question, have you been in a situation where strategic decision making was needed, and how did you go about, what was your experience like in making your decision in that particular circumstance? That would prompt them basically to reflect on their own experiences and really, talk from that angle, yeah, from that perspective, from that level of experience. And what you do there, it really helps to make them feel included or part of the teaching and learning process. All right. So like I said, you see how an understanding of the learners and your instructional context informs some of the things that you will do in your online sessions. Yeah. So it influences how the pace that you go in your lesson. Whether you can go very quickly, you could gloss over certain things or not. It might determine how you structure your or sequence your content. Yeah. And of course the feedback that you give and so on. If it is that you know that the learners are fairly new and not very confident in what you're trying to teach, you're probably not going to be very harsh in terms of giving the feedback, right? Generally, you wouldn't be harsh with feedback, but you want to take those things into consideration and really be, you might need positive reinforcement and that sort of thing where necessary. Now, once you understand who you're teaching, you know how to engage them, right? So that's why I had to cover that part, because really teaching in the online environment is a good bit about engagement. Now, notice it's not, I'm not saying aim to get their attention. It's not just that. That's the difference between, I don't want to say entertainment, but you want to engage, right? Which is a step above. Now, you have different levels of engagement, right? And for somebody to be engaged, this is why I distinguish it from just being attentive. You could be attentive and not really remember anything in this session. You could be attentive. Let's say, for example, you might be teaching students in the same platform, and the students may be on, but then they're making a sandwich in the kitchen, or they on their phones typing, texting somebody, and that kind of thing. Engagement, however, requires that they are engrossed in what is going on in the class. They are involved, that they are not just in attendance, but also attentive and involved. Yeah. And you have different levels of this. So really I don't want to go through all fatigue, but you really want to aim for the highest level, which is high attention and high commitment. All right. And that's really where the student values the course and all that it requires so much that they will make the necessary sacrifices. They will discipline themselves. They will be diligent. They will be motivated, to perform accordingly. Whereas in the other extreme, you might have students who might be very disruptive, who might be, they never submit work on time, but they only complain, or they try to inveigle others on their path. Yeah. So let me ask you, have you ever encountered students in any of these levels, especially in the online environment? You could use a mic, and I just want to hear from you. So have you ever encountered certain students on any level of this, and how did you deal with those students? Yes, Maria, go ahead.
My experience with my students was kind of the other way.
Okay.
I had a couple of students who were more or less the class leaders. So when we have a sleepy session, they would be there motivating the class, and we would be able to engage. So it wasn't a disruptive presence, but it was more to bring additional conversations. So I had a lot of the same people who would talk every week to keep the class going, more or less. But it also allowed me to notice who wasn't quite taking part. So on that level, I'll start to call names, I'll start to involve people, and use different tactics to get the class involved. So I don't know if it made sense.
No, you're very right. I like that. So you resorted to different tactics to get them more involved or more engaged. Yeah. And that's perfectly normal. That's perfectly normal.
Yeah.
And you notice what you did there. You call names. You you did a couple of different activities. Activities are usually one of the easiest ways to get that sort of feedback or that sort of engagement. They almost force the student to be involved, to get involved, whether it's a group activity with their peers, a peer review, a quick peer review thing. All of those things are necessary, are useful, I should say. Yeah. Anybody else?
Hi, Justin. For me, a lot of the times for some students who, so I teach more technology-based courses, and students who might be anxious about the topic that we're speaking about, sometimes sometimes you have to resort to calling names, right? But what I find gets a lot of traction is when we start talking about like horror stories that folks may have in their departments with a certain type of technology or a vendor or something like that. When we start bringing up stuff like that, you find a lot of people jumping in and contributing. So people like to share their horror stories. At least that's in my experience.
And I like that. You see, so you notice what students enjoy sharing about, right? Even though it's horror stories. So good. I like that. And that's always a good place to start too, where you remember I just mentioned about prior knowledge and how important it is to integrate that into the teaching and learning process. That is a good place. When you see that your class is extremely quiet and not very responsive, you just give them an opportunity to talk about themselves, and that will sort of open up the Pandora's box, as it were, to get their responses, yeah, or to get them to and it usually is a snowball effect. When one starts to respond, another might start, and then, because they realize they could identify with each other, or they might, disagree with each other, and that helps again to build the community of learners that I mentioned earlier. Yeah. Anybody else?
I'll just jump off that point, Justin.
Sure.
I remember I had one session where the students were not talking at all. And what I did was I just started talking about a topic that had nothing to do with the subject matter. So we ended up talking about keeping up with the Kardashians. And it was a group a younger group, and they were very much into what's going on with the stars and whatnot. So we just started talking about Kim and the family and what was the latest going on with her. And I mean, the class was just buzzing because clearly they were, I mean, I didn't have a clue what was going on with the Kardashians, but I just thought that, that I feel will get their attention. And they chat and, you know, who agreed, disagree, story. And at the end of it, you know, while they were talking, I mean, the intention was really just to get them to talk. And then, you know, at the end of it, I just try and I made a tenuous link back to the topic at hand. But it worked because after that, it just sort of broke the ice, and then we were able to go on with the subject matter.
And if you know what really happened there is that you engage them in something that they knew about and their prior knowledge, and like you said, it broke the ice. So you didn't really have to force a response from them, so to speak, or that kind of thing. So that's really the power of prior knowledge and prior. And then two, if you didn't know your students, you wouldn't know that bringing up something like keeping up with the Kardashians might, you know, might resonate with them, so to speak. Yeah. So this is why, again, it's so important to make sure you understand your students. Yeah. Anybody else? Nobody else? All right. Okay, cool. So really, and I like the feedback that the comments that we just had there, that, and naturally, look at that natural instinct you guys have, that you realize it was a kind of stiff situation before, and then you kind of just took a different approach where you engage them in an online class discussion. And you see what you said, Leslie, where you were able to segue back into what the real content or the course curriculum was all about. That is exemplary, right? So it's almost like a beat. The Kardashians conversation was just really to break the ice, get them comfortable, get them on the same page, and then you rein it in to where you need them to be. So you meet them where they are, where they're at, and then you get them to where they need to be, which is what teaching and learning is all about. And if you had just started on, you know, with the conversation or the topic about the course, and this is what they need to learn, and these are the concepts, and these are the, you would just be the only one talking, and then there's no retention that would take place. And if no retention is taking place, then it means that they haven't really learned anything. And then there's a theory or perspective that if learning hasn't taken place, then teaching hasn't taken place, right? So you really want to be what we say, take a learner-centered or student-centered approach, right? Because that is a more active, where students become more actively involved in the teaching and learning process. And this was just a quick quote that Benjamin Franklin built on. Tell me and I forget, show me I may remember. So like I said, you know, you could talk, but I wouldn't remember that, but involve me and I learn. So if I just told you about Padlet, or told you about my learning, or told you about Poll Everywhere, you probably wouldn't remember. But the fact that you created your Padlet, you know you're going to remember that. So, you know, for example, Leslie is going to show off with her daughter that she is in things now with Padlet, right? So that's another aspect of the teaching and learning process. You don't want to be doing all the talking, especially in the online environment, because like I said, students could be present but not engaged. And so you want to give them opportunities to contribute, to influence the teaching and learning process, or the pace, the direction a little bit. You have your plan, but your plan should cater to any segues or digressions and then bring it back to where you need them to be, right? So this graphic just says more or less the same thing, the cone of experience. Please, please, please refrain from just saying, okay, go read this, or reading off of the slides, or just doing all the talking and that sort of thing. Make sure you give them things to do, right? That way you know that they are not just in attendance, but they are attentive and engaged, right? And that they'll remember what you're trying to teach them. So very quickly, we're going to go to some strategies for success. And really, that really speaks to, my thing is skewed a little bit, but student-centered teaching strategies, right? Instructional strategies. So one of the things that we promote, I should say, student-centered teaching strategies. What is it all about? It's really just driven by the learners. It's really where the learners become the center of the teaching and learning process. Remember, they are the recipients of your instruction. So they are the ones that you're catering to. You want to try as best as possible to meet their needs. Not just to cover the curriculum, but to meet their needs, right? Sometimes that might take you out of the realm of just teaching the content. It might take you more into, sometimes providing guidance or almost a little motivation, that sort of things, those sorts of things. All right, so student-centered learning is really something that is prefaced on the, or informed by the learner, all right, as opposed to the previous paradigm where it was more teacher-centered, where the teacher just stands in front of the class and talk, or, well, in this case, comes online and just does all the talking. Now it's really guided by the students. And I like that. And I don't think anybody here is teacher-centered. I think you're more or less student-centered. Yeah. But here are some strategies that will guide you or help you become more student-centered. So you have game-based learning. So I have a workshop that I do, a webinar that I do on game-based learning, and we cover different simulations, gaming simulations. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Family Feud, Jeopardy, etc. These things really help students. You'll be surprised, even grown, when I say grown students, mature students who are, 50s, 60s, 70s sometimes, and they are so much engaged by these learning activities, and they never forget, and sometimes they would want a prize after, but in the virtual environment, you're probably just going to get a virtual cake or hand clap, right? So, but you also have different activities. You have, or approaches. You have a collaborative approach and a web quest approach, a problem-based approach. These three we'll do in just a bit, all right? You have the flipped approach where you would give them things to read in advance, and then you come and build on those things through class discussions, game-based activities, and all these different things. So I'm putting this here to mean that you don't have to use one approach exclusively. You could use a combination of these approaches. Yeah? So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to put you into groups very quickly. And in these groups, let's see, we have about 7 persons here at the moment. So I'm going to put you in groups of, because I think some persons had technical difficulties, so, or may have dropped out. So I'm going to put you, normally it would be 4, 5, 60, but that's okay. We will go into, I'll post you the instructions shortly thereafter. And we're going to have, let me put you in groups of 3, in 3 groups. One group is going to have 3 attendees, and 2 groups will have 2 attendees. So it'll be pair and then a trio. So I want you now, what you're going to do is do a quick, you're going to find 5 facts online. You just do a quick Google search on any of these approaches. Now let me assign them to you. So group 1, this will be, group 1 will be Leslie, Lisa, and, oh, Mark. Leslie, Lisa, and Mark, I'll probably move you just to balance it off. I'll move you. Just one sec. So it'll be Leslie and Lisa. What group do you want? What topic do you want, Leslie or Lisa?
Experiential.
All right, experiential. Okay, good. And the other group, so I'm trying to put you in groups as we speak. The other group would be Abdullah and Shalian. Which one would you like?
Active learning?
Yeah.
Active learning, okay.
Active learning, okay.
Okay, active learning, okay, good. So group 2, that's Abdullah and Shalian, you guys will do active learning. Group 1, which will be Leslie and Lisa, you'll do experiential learning. And the third group, which will be Akola and Maria, which one would you like? Cooperative or inductive teaching and learning?
Cooperative.
Cooperative. Okay, great. So we just leave inductive teaching and learning. I'll explain that shortly thereafter. All right, so I'll give you a couple minutes. It shouldn't take long. It's just to do a quick web quest. You search online. You find 5 facts about the assigned approach that you have, and then you just come and tell the rest of the class what you found. Right now, you could do so, and if you want. When I did this activity with another group, you could do so via fancy presentation, PowerPoint. You know, you don't have to, but it helps. Or you could just talk us through. Anyone is fine. All right. So I'll give you about, just about, let's say about 5 minutes, maybe 5 to 8 minutes. Let's say 8 minutes to find those 5 facts, and then you put them together, and then you can come and tell us what they're about. All right. Everyone understands?
Understands?
Just, are you putting us into breakout rooms?
Yes, I'm gonna do that now.
Yes,
Before I do that, everyone understands.
Everyone understands.
All right. So here we go.
Hey, Justin, I sent you a message earlier, yes?
Yeah, now reading it and replying.
Oh.
I'm just gonna well, I know it's being recorded still, so I'm just gonna address some really deeply here. All right.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I don't know, we have 8 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes
Hello.
to prepare.
All right.
All right.
Welcome back, guys.
Welcome back, guys.
All right, so let's take it very
All
quickly.
right, so let's take it very quickly.
Which group wants to go first? Active
Which
learning?
wants to go first? Active learning?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We tried a thing. We did a thing. We created a Padlet.
I like that. I like that. Very good.
As a demonstration of active learning.
Do you want to share your screen, or you want me to share your screen the screen as well?
I just popped the Padlet URL into the chat.
All right. Okay. I saw the link. So I'll share the screen there.
Justin, we're supposed to just click on Padlet?
Yeah.
Oh,
But just in case he needed a visual to guide his description or whatnot, I don't know.
wow.
Yeah,
So go ahead, Abdullah, you go ahead. You do your thing.
No, I was hoping that you would put it on the screen.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's what I was gonna do.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Are you seeing it now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So you take it away.
So it's a combined effort, but I'll speak to it. It was mostly Shellyan, to be honest. But so we did a Google search and we pulled together the ideas and just literally threw them onto the wall, right? So we have a definition, one definition by Bonwell. So active learning is a method of learning where students are actively and experientially, that's the important part, experientially involved in the learning process, where the different levels of active learning depending on the student involvement. So it's a branch of experiential learning and constructive learning, if I remember what I just read. Why? I had to go back to my training and development days. So why is active learning important? The principle of active learning is purposeful, relevant to the task and to the student outcomes. It's reflective, so it's experiential. So you'd want to use it more in andragogy. And it works best with adults and reflecting based on their experience, negotiated, critical. All these are from Barnes' 1989, right? It allows for complex interactions. It's situation driven, and it allows them to engage, right, and reflect on life experiences. Why is it important? Because it improves the outcome, which is the learning and the application of that learning, and it's well established as an effective form of approach to learning and through teaching, right? An approach to learning. The benefits are used, and there are a lot of activities involved with it. So one example, and there's an example there under why is it used, and there are several strategies. So some we found on that link there. So for example, question answer, the Socratic method, in class demonstrations, to do a problem-based learning, which is like this 1-minute paper brainstorming, having discussions and that sort of thing. So pretty much bringing the students into the conversation.
Very good. Very good. Excellent. And I see you take the screenshot and you did what you had to do, right?
Yeah, that's the requirements. So yeah.
Yeah, excellent. And I must applaud you on the use of Padlet. I was hoping somebody would do that as well, because it's the easiest way out, right? But you still did quite a phenomenal job with this. I guess let me just put in the chat so as you see here, the competition is on, guys. Just say it. Group 1, you guys did excellent. You blew it out of the park. All right, so group 2. Any other questions first of all for group 1? I think it was pretty comprehensive. Yeah. All right, group 2. I think group 2, you guys had collaborative, sorry, teaching and learning, yeah? And is there a spokesperson for group 2? Group 2 went mute on me. I think group 1, I wonder if you intimidated them, boy. What's going on here? Group 2, are you ready? All right, so I think group 2 was either a cola and was it a cola and
We were cooperative. We weren't collaborative.
yeah, that's what I said, cooperative or collaborative.
Sorry. Oh,
Yeah.
I am sorry. I am sorry. You want me to present? I am sorry.
Yes. No problem. Go right ahead.
Apologies. Can I share?
Sure.
We did not do Padlet. I am sorry.
That is
You're
perfectly
cheated.
fine.
Okay, you're cheated. You're cheated. I am sorry. That was pre-prepared. You can't do that in 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
It just shows to the power of what Padlet offers. So, yeah, you can do it in 2 minutes.
You're cheated. Okay?
And collaboration as well.
The notes in advance. Can I share my screen?
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
I did. I'm feeling so outdated right now because I just did a PowerPoint presentation.
That's perfectly fine. You don't worry about that, Gil. You do your thing.
My goodness. So let me start the slideshow.
The group 1, you all just kind of made everybody
I
intimidated.
don't even know. Make me forget my name, all kind of thing that we in group 2. Anyway, we did cooperative learning, and it is basically, from what we understand, it is a group, how to work in groups, right? You have it's a group way of learning, and it's there were 5 pillars that we found, and it is positive and independent, interdependent, where you have to work. It's basically an aspect of working together. So you have the face-to-face interaction, and this is where you just basically pump each other on, right? You also have the individual and accountability. And there's the interpersonal, because within the group, you still have the individuality. So you have individual within the group, and then you may have the small group skills and building the communication, the trust, and the levels, the various levels of the forming, norming, storming, performing. I actually did a lecture on this.
That's fun.
Yes. And then we have the group processing, and that is reflecting. This is actually where you would look back on what has happened within the group. These are the 5 elements that I would have just spoken about, where you have the positive interdependence, the individual accountability, the face-to-face promotive interaction, the interdependence, and the group processing. Those are the 5 pillars, and these are it's a further analysis of and a breakdown of what it is, where the elements of the pillars and the characteristics. Questions?
What's that?
Any questions?
Oh.
And that is the end of our slideshow.
Very good, very good. Excellent. Another round of applause. Right? Let me just put that there. So I don't know if you want a round of applause or if you want a slice of cake, I'll give you a slice of cake, right? So
thank you. Cake is always nice.
Very good job. Very good job. I like the attention to detail. Excellent. All right. So the next group, I think you guys had experiential learning, correct? That was Leslie Ann and Lisa, I believe. And yes, Shelly Ann gave you a thumbs up.
That was us.
Thank you.
Justin.
Right.
Did not. Well, that time ran away from us. Lisa's mic wasn't able to unmute, so we were kind of back and forth in the chat. Nevertheless, we also tried a Padlet.
The competition stiff.
Nothing as detailed as the first group.
You see what I'm telling you? It's prior knowledge, though.
No, this is our first time. So, Justin, I'm not sure if you could share on my behalf, please.
Yes, I'm just sharing.
The link is in the. Lisa, are you able to speak now, or?
Yes, I finally got back by 9.
Oh, okay, all right.
Because I think I saw Lisa jump back left and came back in. So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the only way I got back my mic.
Right. Yeah.
All right. So.
Go ahead, guys. Take it away.
All right. So Lisa, I can probably just do the definition, and you can come in with the examples. So some quick 5 facts about experiential learning in terms of definition, if you will. It says experiential learning describes the ideal process of learning, and it invites the learner, you, to understand self as a learner, and it also empowers you to take charge of your own learning and development process, so that the learner is very much central to the teaching method. There is a 4-step learning process, so that we presented the diagram for the experiential learning cycle that starts off with experiencing. So the foundation of this approach is really learning by doing, right? So that you experience, and then there must be a time of reflection in terms of what you learned and how it could be applied to your day-to-day life, or to your business, or to your work. A period of followed by a period of thinking, probably also about the application of the theories and so that you would have learned. Acting, which involves the learner actually doing, like we did today, actually creating the Padlet, developing the plan, collecting the data, and then it's a cycle. So of course, whatever you reflect, think, and do, the results of that would now feed back into that cycle of learning. So it's a sort of, it's a cyclical process. So Lisa, you want to do some of the examples then of experiential learning?
So some of the examples would include things like the applied research project. So that is where the learner will get involved in actually going out and doing field work and that sort of thing. Entrepreneurship incubators are another example. And you can use things as like case studies or mock trials or debates within the classroom. And just to round it all off, we also included video on the whole process of experiential learning.
Nice. Very good. Very good. I'm quite impressed. I don't know who the winner is. I wouldn't go so far to I wouldn't open that can of worms, but very good, group 3. And of course, because it's a Padlet, you guys can always go and see the video that they have up there. Same thing for group 1. I think you guys had a video. I'm not too sure. And look, right, Shelly-Ann is giving you guys points, you know, for what you did. So great job, great, excellent job, all 3 groups. I think you guys did a marvelous job. And the 4th approach. Now, before we even go there, what did you realize now that you looked at everyone's approach? We looked at active learning, we looked at cooperative learning, we looked at collaborative learning, experiential learning, and then we have inductive teaching and learning. This is just a summary of it, of course. That it's really almost like a research-based approach where you would give the sort of use an inductive approach, such as an inquiry-based approach or a case study kind of thing, and then the student has to go and do the needful, the follow-through. Let's just call it that, right? So what do you understand? What are some of the salient points of each of these methods? Do you see any overlaps or any sort of similarities or connectedness? Let's call it that. Anybody could answer.
They all meant to engage. They're all meant to engage the students.
Right, right, that's one. They're all meant to
Um,
engage.
it's a it's a lot of learning by doing.
Yeah, action
Right,
oriented.
action oriented. I like that. Uh, I like that because it's once you it's difficult for you to do something without really being involved in it. Something, and when I say something meaningful. Without, you're just doing it as a routine kind of thing. Yeah, from the student side of it at least. So yes, you guys are definitely correct. Yes, student oriented or learner centered. Very good. So active learning, if you think of it, just to let me help you make the connection with amongst the four of them. Um, all of these methods, let's say cooperative, inductive, experiential, are all ways in which active learning can be executed, right, or implemented. The cooperative learning, students, or collaborative learning, students are working together. And remember I spoke about the social presence. This is specifically what that will strengthen. Social presence, teaching presence or teacher presence, and cognitive presence, because you're learning through it all. Likewise with the inductive and the experiential approaches, you're all actively involved. You're doing, as the dean said, right? So let's just stop and reflect for a little bit about the activity that we just did, not just the approaches we looked at, but some of the activities that we just did. Did you see where okay, what stood out to you? Like, you tell me. What stood out to you? Remember the activity I don't want to tell you, they put words anymore. So you tell me what about the activity just now um, uh, stood out to you most, or you observed, you found you were intrigued by it, or you observed something in practice. Yeah, you tell me. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So I was not just a receiver. When you're passive and you're just receiving, I felt, I had to find the information myself, and the information was readily available. So
Right.
that part of it, and I think that's something I really have to try to engage my students in a bit more, because a lot of times I feel like I must give them the information. So
Right.
I appreciated the getting it the other way around, flipping it the other way around.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And I like how you said that it's not just you giving the information, but it's really the students finding the information and being able to sift through the information themselves, right? Because then they develop. Remember, part of the distinct we graduate is for them to become a critical thinker and all these other things. So it gives them that opportunity to do that, and that is how you meet those objectives of the distinctive UE graduate without necessarily setting time in your course, you know what I mean, to do it, but you could fold it into your regular instructions, right? It also allows you to sometimes cover more material and more aids for retention, because I'm sure now you would remember more about, let's say, Shelley-Ann, you remember more about active learning now than if I just told you what it was, right? Because you actually went and you found the information yourself. And that's what 21st century education, part of it, is what it's all about. I saw in the chat somebody said, student to write, panic to get something done in a short time frame, forced us to be exactly. So it piqued your interest a little bit, because now it's like, oh god, the pressure is on. But it's good pressure, not it's that gentle challenge, I should say, to get something done, because now you're presenting to your peers and you want to put your best foot forward to an extent, and and so you take pride in your work. Yes, stress. Right, so it's a little, I don't call it stress, it's a little pressure, right? But yeah, and the thing is, you weren't doing it by yourself, so that didn't make it stressful. It was a little pressure, but not stress, right? So just to kind of bring it all together with what we just did, In terms of the, remember I showed you, yes, Lisa, go ahead.
Justin, I wanted to say something. I could just see, a lecturer sit down with, on one side is a piece of paper with that is the course outline. And on the other side, I see a whole list of these techie tools. And, you're looking at a session and you're breaking it down into its components and saying, okay, so what activity should I really pull in here? And it is an exercise, it's a very thought-provoking exercise to figure out what could I add where. And then I even see maybe there is benefit in lecturers sitting in other lecturers' classes to see, well, how are some of these tools being used? Could I incorporate it in that kind of way? So
yes.
That was my thought on it.
Yes, you're definitely right. And so it's not just to learn from each other, but to support each other. Because sometimes another lecturer might be a little more comfortable or versed in a particular, technology tool, or you might feel more comfortable knowing that the other lecturer is there to support if the technology should give trouble, right? So that helps. And even if you're not attending each other's classes or sessions entirely, you might just attend for like a 10 minutes or 20 minutes, just to help each other and make sure that the whole team, and when I say the whole team, all the faculty, you know what I mean, the teachers and so on, that you have a strong, not just you look good, but I mean, no student could say that this course was the worst and this, because remember, it reflects on the entire program, it reflects on the entire experience. So I definitely endorse that, Lisa. And that is kind of what we were trying to do in terms of, now that you know some of these approaches, you can go through your lesson plans, for example, if you have a plan. See what you can do now that you know some of the different approaches and you've seen how easily they can be done or executed. Now you could go and see how you could integrate them almost seamlessly. And you could start small. You could start small, right? You don't have to do all in one shot. All right, so you might do a similar approach where you might give them a collaborative activity and you give them the breakout groups and just what I did. Now, what we did just now, we combined approaches, right? Remember I said earlier when I showed you that slide and the different instructional approaches, this one, and I said specifically that you don't have to do one approach and stick to it. You might do a combination of approaches. So in this, the exercise we just did, we did the collaborative approach, we did the web quest or the inquiry-based approach, we did the interactive approach, right? We used the technology, breakout rooms in Blackboard. Then we allowed persons to share, well, I shared screen for persons, but persons were presenting. Yeah, I had to make Maria a presenter, for example, right? And so what you had there was learning and engagement being maximized, as opposed to me just telling you what these approaches are about. You found the things on your own, you presented them, you were able to explain them, right? And so it becomes more meaningful to you. Now, when we go into, I'm now segueing very quickly into the different platforms, right? So when we go into My Learning, you have different ways you could do some of these same approaches in My Learning. You have the discussion forum, you have the assignment activity, you have the quiz, you have the glossary activity. The glossary activity is really where, let's say you just happen to have a course that you would like students to be more familiar with certain concepts. I don't know how large your classes might be, but it's something to consider. It's really where, if the course has a lot of concepts, you might want to create a class glossary. You don't have to do it in My Learning, and there are other platforms to do it, but you could do it in Padlet. Padlet is you know what I mean? So you could still use Padlet. You don't have to use an entirely new platform, but this is just a different way you could do it. Added to that, you have web links, including your Padlet, including, let's say you created a YouTube screencast, right, or a blog. That is another avenue. So whatever links you have out there, web pages and so on, you could engage, you could bring it into My Learning. And so remember I said earlier that My Learning would be your almost like a central spot or station for students for you to upload content and so on and activities, but also for students to have access to your course. Now, I don't think I need to go through these things in my learning because I believe, but I know it was sent as recent as last week and the week before. Not just the training schedule or the dates for your diary, but also the training resource package. All right. If you didn't get it, definitely please feel free to email me, and we could send it to you as soon as possible. I know Mark is here, so he might even provide you with it if you need it as well. All right. We also have My Learning 101 for lecturers. That's a demonstration course. Now in that course, we have both tutorial videos on different things. If you need to know how to create a discussion forum, if you need to know how to create an assignment activity, how to create a quiz, or upload a link or use a label, all these things are in there. Not just tip sheets or tutorial tip sheets or guidelines, but also tutorial videos. All right. So we have those things in both those avenues there. But added to that, you might want to engage them in Blackboard. All right. Now you could do that through different platforms. Like I said, you have a poll. You could use poll everywhere, but you also have polls in Blackboard. Now, very quickly, I'm just watching the time, so I'll wrap up in about 5 minutes if that's okay with you. What are we gonna do? What we're gonna look at now would be, because I know you might have some sort of familiarity with some of the Blackboard features, but I'm gonna show you some very short ones right now. Okay, so you would see under the slide, you have a couple icons there. Next to your microphone, on the left side of your microphone, if you hover over that icon, you will see My Status and Settings. If you click on that, you would see some quick feedback you could get from your students. So if I were to ask you, how was lunch? How was lunch today? Could you post your response? Just click on it, whether you were happy, maybe you got curry today, so that is always a happy, something to enjoy. I don't know. Maybe you didn't get lunch, so you might be sad. Or you're surprised, somebody surprised you with lunch today, or you didn't have lunch yet, so it's, So click on any of the buttons there under feedback and let me know. Okay, so I see Abdullah was happy, Akula, Maria, Shalian, right? You guys are happy, so I guess you guys had a good lunch, right? Now there's an easy way for you to, Mark, could you change change everyone from participants to, I wonder if they would see it as, you'd probably see it as moderators. Could you change everyone to moderators, Mark, please? Now, if I were to ask another question, right, using the same tool, how do you feel? What do you feel about this particular session, this training session? All right, and you would click the same thing, go My Status, and go ahead and click anything. So Lisa is happy, Shalian is happy, Maria is surprised. Maria, why are you surprised? Is it that you learned this, or hopefully?
I'm very excited to start to learn the Padlet.
Right. I said it right? Yes.
I said it right?
Yes, you said it right.
Yeah.
Abdullah, right? You're saying faster. I don't know, Abdullah, what you mean faster? It was too fast?
I was just trying out the icon. I didn't mean anything.
Fair enough. Now, one of the things, I forgot to show you. So when you go to the attendees list, you would see as a moderator the responses for each person. That's why I was able to tell, for example, that Lisa was satisfied, or Lisa was happy, or Maria was happy. If you go to click on the attendees list, that is the icon next to the chat. And then, so I would click something, let's say happy, right? You notice you see the emoji or the emoticon by my name. Yeah? Yeah? So this is a great way, and look, Shelley, and click something good. Maria, go ahead.
Right.
as we are here and as I am a moderator, look, I can turn off, as a moderator, I can turn off Justin's mic so I won't get the feedback. I can also look at the experience. I know when my students are being bumped off because of internet issues. I know who's having an excellent reception for the internet. And we can also from here, we can make people presenters, participants, or whatever. Yeah? Sorry, I just was showing off.
Good. Fair enough, even though you had to meet me in the process, right? But that's okay. No offense taken, but no, but you're definitely right. So this is so when you want your students to be presenters, and I think this is really important, this is where you want to go to do that. You simply click on the name. So we could do that with some of us now. So you could click on you would see on the right side of each person's name, you would see a sort of circle with an ellipsis, like 3 dots. And you click on that and you could see the options there to make presenter. So for example, I could make Shelly-Ann a presenter, I could make Maria a presenter, and you would see the different categories of persons. All right, so Leslie-Ann, could you go ahead and make, let's see, let me add back Maria, since Maria knows how to do it. So could you add Maria as a presenter or a presenter, please?
Sure. Maria as a presenter.
Right, excellent. And Abdullah, could you make Leslie-Ann presenter, please?
Yeah, sure.
Good. And then Dean, could you make Abdullah presenter or participant, anyone, please?
Abdullah.
Right, excellent. Lisa, could you make Dean the either participant or presenter, please? Lisa? Okay, good, right, I see it, good. Shelly-Ann, could you make Lisa a participant or presenter, please? Excellent. And well, of course, Mark, you could make Shelly-Ann the presenter. So we all got some experience in that regard. So when you want your students to be more involved, let's say they have presentations to do in their courses, in their classes and so on, that is how you do it, right? You go to the attendees list, you click on the 3 dots on the right side of their name, and then you make them presenters. You would do the same process if you need to make them, if you need to mute them. Yes, Lisa?
Can you explain annotations as an activity?
Yeah, I was going to that in just a bit. So we have, just to recap so far, we have the feedback feature, which is a more efficient way of using the poll, right? I wouldn't recommend, well, if you're going to use the polling feature, you probably would want to type your question in advance on another document, or let's say you have it on a PowerPoint somewhere, and then you want to copy and paste. If it's a long question, you know you may not be able to type very quickly. It wouldn't hurt to just type your prompt for your poll. That's a tongue twister, boy. Right? You type your prompt for your poll, and then you just paste it in the platform. And then we looked at making persons presenters. That's also another platform, another avenue for engagement. And then what we're going to look at now would be engagement. All right. So I'm trying to find a clear slide so it makes it a little easier for you to write on. So just give me 1 minute. So good. So this slide here, I want you now to write or type your name. Let's say we have a simple slide and we just want to call it introductions. Or if you want to answer this particular question here, I want you now to type your response, or you could draw, or you could, well, you would need to type your response to make it a little more legible. So you would see at the top left side of your screen, you would see a pencil, you would see a T icon. So click on any of those, and you could perhaps just type your name for now. And this feature is what we call annotations. All right. You could also change the color of your font. You would see a little blue circle, or at the top there. You could change it to green, orange, red, etc. Now, one of the somebody just scribbled. Now, one of the ways I use this is if I have a sort of illustration. Let's say in your case, let's say in your context, you might have a leadership structure, right? Or process, the decision-making process. That has several steps to it. One of the things that or even different theories or types of leadership, right? You might want your students to label the diagram. Yeah, to label different parts of the process, to label different parts of the illustration you're showing, right? This is what the annotations feature, to me, works best in, right? Where they just label things without you telling them what it is. They're able to demonstrate their knowledge or their that they know what this is about by inserting the labels. So for example, if I'm teaching geography, right, I will show a diagram of the water cycle, right, and then have the students label what is precipitation, condensation, evaporation, surface runoff, those sorts of things, yeah, by using the annotations feature.
Hey,
so,
Justin.
yes, go ahead.
So I just want to share this. I was in a training session once, and the facilitator used this to take rule. So he would for the entire week he would throw up the class sheet, and everyone had to put their X next to their names. And in the icebreaker, he used it as well. So like we were a bunch of functional people in the room. So he had like okay, who's from IT, who's from marketing, or whatever, and we had to put like little X's or hearts or whatever on the screen.
Right. I like
so
that. Very good.
Just engagement, but yeah, it was kind of cool.
Exactly.
That stuck with me. That's an experience.
Yeah, you felt that you could still remember it. It resonated with you. It was something unique, right? It was a new experience that, obviously you wouldn't forget just like that. So there are different ways you could use annotations in your online sessions like this. One of the things I do is just a similar slide like this. I just put a question at the very top and have students put their responses. Another way I would do it is if I have a matrix of some sort, then I would have them type in each box of the matrix. Yes, Dean?
Justin, sorry for being a bad student. Where is the annotation feature?
Right. So it's at the very top of the top left side of your screen. So you would see like a pencil. You might see T. Are you seeing that on the top of the slide?
Yes, no, but if I have to set it up.
Okay, good question.
Oh, we reached there yet?
When we, I could show you how to set it up now.
Oh.
When you could set it up and you could edit it or amend it in two different areas. One, when you are setting up creating your BBC session in My Learning, right? You could set it up there, or you could tweak it in here. Now, Mark, could you make everyone moderators again, please? So let's say now by default it's enabled, so you wouldn't have to take it off, right? I mean, you wouldn't have to put it on. By default, it's enabled to the annotations feature. But let's say you found that students were abusing it and it was becoming distracting, right? You might want to control to disable it. So right now you're all moderators. Thanks for that, Mark. And you would see on the bottom right side of the screen, you would see that little gear icon. When you hover over it, you'll see My Settings. So when you click on that, you could tweak under Session Settings right? That part with draw on whiteboard, you will see when you click on session settings, you could, it will expand the menu, right? And then you would see draw on whiteboard and files. You could disable that, right? By just making sure it's not ticked. So by default, it's enabled, and unless you disable it. Does that answer your question, Dean?
Yes, yes, thank
Right. So you don't ever have to worry about enabling it. It's always there. But if it becomes a problem, which would normally, you know, if it becomes a problem, you'll probably realize that in your class. So this is where you will go to disable it.
Okay.
Right. You would also notice that you have some other settings there. All right. Which I usually try not to tweak too much. You know, share video, share audio, that kind of is standard. But if it is that you find the class is being disruptive in terms of not managing their audio, you could easily disable it. All right, and enable it whenever you're ready to enable it. All right, so as a moderator, you have all these, you could do almost anything in this room. I know we're just past the time, but let me just, is there anything, let me ask, that might be a better approach. Is there anything you would like me to show you? Any extra feature that you would like me to show you or explore? So far, what we did, while you could type it in the chat if you want or use your mic. What we did so far, we looked at, well, I'll separate them. We looked at different technology. We looked at different instructional approaches, right? With the experiential learning, the cooperative learning, etc., etc. We looked at instructional, we looked at different technology tools, educational technologies, such as Padlet, Pool Everywhere, obviously BBC, and some things in My Learning. We looked at the teaching and learning aspect of it, not just instructional approaches, but really understanding your students and that sort of thing, right? Your instructional context and so on. I assume we all know how to upload content into and how to share a screen, right? In Blackboard Collaborate. Yeah. And that's perfectly fine. Great, great. Because I just wanted, I know you've been teaching online for, well, some of you at least. That's okay, Abdullah, that's okay. You're just exploring, I understand. So right, so and we also showed in terms of engagement, we looked at sharing a screen, feedback, the feedback feature. We spoke about the polls, and I didn't want to go too much into the polls because if you have the feedback feature, the polls wouldn't necessarily be too important. I mean, yes, it'll give you some statistics in terms of what percent, how many persons voted as yes or no, you know, that kind of thing. But if if you'd like me to go through that, I don't mind. I could do that as well. We looked at annotations. We looked at not screen sharing, sharing links and so on. Of course, not just in the chat, but also a couple different other things. I'm just trying to find the slide now that Abdullah took off the PowerPoint, but that's okay. We looked at changing privileges in your BBC session. All right, so students can actually take the lead in presenting content and you not just presenting everything. All right, we looked at the first couple points here. We looked at Pool Everywhere and then game-based learning approaches. All right, you have some different approaches, Kahoot, Jeopardy, etc. Which I told you about. That's a game-based, that's an instructional approach. And if you're interested in that, I can always do another session specifically on game-based learning, and we could schedule that at some point in time, maybe next month or next couple of weeks. All right. We also looked at URLs. Well, you shared your URLs in here, in the chat, for Padlet and other things. Oh, would you like me to show you how to embed your Padlet into your My Learning page, or do you think you are good there?
Show us, please, Justin.
Great. So all you have to do, I'll share my screen. Let me just get to that. So you're going basically into the share feature, go to your Padlet and click on share so we could do it together. All right. Let me just find my Padlet. I think this is it. No, it's not. All right, one sec. Let me just pull it back up. Good. So I just need you to go to share on your Padlet. And you're going to go to, so you should see my screen, good. And you're going to go to embed in your blog or website. So you click on that. And you would see the embed code. Now, I know Abdullah is somewhat techie as well, right? Abdullah, I know you're into technology as well. So this, well, you know, would be the embed code. So guys, you don't have to understand the code. You don't have to, because it's just a bunch of, you know, it's a code. So you're just gonna copy, click on copy, it's right here. It's a big pink button, so it's hard to miss. Copy this, all right? And then you're gonna go to your My eLearning course. So let me just go to my eLearning course. I'll go to right. And hopefully it doesn't take forever to, oh yes, now let me just say this as well. So my learning has been upgraded. I don't know if you saw the email as well. All right, so you're gonna have to use your staff ID, all right, and that sort of thing, yeah? So let me just go to it. It was updated, upgraded yesterday. So I'm already in, and let me just find a course that I have. And we will see here let's see here. So you would see even here, I should have a Padlet here already, I think. So, right, so this is a Padlet here, right? Again, the same Padlet you just saw. So let me show you how to do it, okay? So what you need to do is you turn editing on. Let me go to a block lower down. All right, you can turn editing on. Once you do that, of course, you're gonna see all the stuff that you could tweak and all these different things. So you click on add an activity or resource. So let's say I'm doing it in this particular thing. And I'm gonna click label. Let me know if I'm going too quickly. So remember, you're copying the embed code from your Padlet. Then you're gonna go to My Learning, your course in My Learning. You click turn editing on. You select add a resource or activity, and then add a label, right? You could decide to give it a little topic, so to speak, class introductions. Right? This is optional, you don't have to do that. And you're gonna click on the first icon, which is ready to expand the ribbon, the menu. This icon is an arrow pointing down. Click on it, and you see it expanded the menu, right? Then you're gonna click the last icon in that menu. So to recap, it's the first icon and the last icon. The first icon, which is this, the arrowhead, and the last icon, which is the less than, more than sign, right? The embed, basically it's an embed or toggle button. So you paste your code. Sorry, you click on this. Paste your code. Now you would see some stuff like this. That's okay. This is just the programming sort of language to know when you put a space or when you put, your text and all these different things. So you're just gonna go to the end of that and paste your link, your embed code. Right? And then you click save and return to course. And this is, so let me scroll down so you could see it. Oh, there it is. And here it is. Now, if I were to turn editing off, you would see it'll take up this, and with this right where it's highlighted, it would take up this particular part of the screen. All right, now let me turn editing off so you get to see what it actually looks like. All right, and there you go. And including myself, me or any student could click on it and respond from here. Remember I said before that you don't have to go to Padlet, students don't have to go to Padlet to put their comment or their posts. They could easily type it from here. All right. I put CETL, the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning. Right? And that's it. So you see it's added to the Padlet. So once you create a Padlet, you could, of course, yes, you could use it in your synchronous sessions, but you could use it, you could also use it asynchronously and post it, embed it in your course site. Because remember I said remote teaching and learning is both synchronous and asynchronous, right? It's good to have a combination of the two. In some cases, what I've done in the past is embed my Padlet right here, and then in the live session, have students refer to or go to that Padlet in the course site, just so it will make them visit the course site. So I know that they're actually paying attention and responsive in the actual course site and not just trying to skim through. All right. Was that pretty clear enough or?
I love that. I love it.
Excellent, excellent. So I think I don't want to overwhelm you with too much information. I think you have a good bit of things to kind of ponder on and see how you can incorporate these different things, not just technology tools, of course, but also instructional approaches, right? One of the things that I want to remind you of is that you don't want to focus so much. No problem at all, Leslie, right? You don't want to do too much. Sorry, you don't want to oh, what was I going to say? I totally forgot what I was going to say. But yeah, so just some tips as we kind of wind down. In teaching in the online environment, you want to make sure you have 5 pointers or 5 tips. Make sure it's relevant. And I think we kind of went over that with where Leslie mentioned, we talk about the Kardashians, and then I think Abdullah mentioned the horror stories. So you make sure it resonates with your students. Make sure that students can identify with what's going on or that kind of thing. So now in order to do that, you need to make sure you understand it, get to know your learners a little bit. Make it participatory or active, right? And again, that's a learner-centered approach. Make sure it's interactive. Give them opportunity to collaborate with each other. Give them opportunities to team up. Give them opportunities to present. Let them take the lead on certain things. Make it fun, right? Look at that activity you got, the WebQuest activity you just did. That was fun, right? It was light-heartedly competitive, yeah? And then, of course, you want to make it memorable or meaningful, because if it's not, and of course, this is hinged on 1 through 4. Remember the diagram I showed you, that if it's not active or it's not participatory, they're not going to remember what you just taught them. All right. So as we bring it to a close, are there any other questions that you might have? Right, sorry. Yes. But I think that was a very good idea to just bring up keeping up with the Kardashians, and that is I commend you on that. Because that's exactly a good example of what we were talking about today. All right, now guys, we have a bit of an evaluation form that would be sent to you between this evening and maybe tomorrow. Please look out for that. It's via the same email you used to register for the session. And that feedback would be very useful in helping us improve what we do. All right. Oh, thank you so much, Shelly Ann. You're most welcome. And if you need any help, anybody, definitely feel free to send us an email. Well, thank you so much for that, Dean. I definitely appreciate that. Feel free to send us an email. Of course, if it's something, let's say, an account issue with My Learning, you could send it to me. Well, you could send it to servicedesk@sta.uwi.edu and copy me, and we could address it. Whether it's an access issue for you, sometimes the students might have issues, but in that case, you just send an email to servicedesk@sta.uwi.edu. And of course, you want to make sure when you're teaching in the online environment that you keep it collaborative. So these are some key words that we use today: collaborative, practical, or hands-on, actively involved. You want to make sure it's appropriate or relevant. You want to make sure it's useful, and they give them that chance, that opportunity to create, whether it's a presentation or whatnot. All right, and thank you so much for your part. I don't want to say attendance, but participation in this particular session this afternoon, and I hope it was fruitful, it was productive for you, and that more than that, that the real difference now would be where you would implement what you learned today. Yeah, so Lisa, I guess I could turn it over to you.
Thank you, Justin. So first, let me thank the lecturers of the SLIN program and the Dean for taking time to attend the session, and not just attend, but to experiment with the new technologies here that we're learning about. Justin, thank you. Thank you so very much for sharing your wisdom, experience, tips, strategies, etc. It was really very informative and very engaging. So I will liaise hereafter with the lecturers, and if we need anything further, I will be in touch. Thanks again.
Definitely. You're most welcome. All right. So have a great evening, everyone. And again, happy online teaching. All right. So have a great afternoon, everyone.
Thanks a lot, Justin. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Take care.